Today we will be visiting Fort Fisher, constructed during the Civil War and located on Fort Fisher Boulevard in Kure Beach, right outside of Wilmington. Before we begin, let's take a look at a few words that we will be using today that might seem a little new to us. Have you ever seen any of these words before? If so, when were they used and what did they mean? A palisade is another word for a strong fence or barricade. Casemates are small rooms within the walls of a fortress with holes for guns to be fired from. Rations are a fixed amount of something allowed to each person during a shortage. In today's case, we use this word when we're talking about food and those living in the fort. A blockade is an attempt to seal off a place to prevent goods from entering or leaving. We'll learn about how the Union soldiers built a blockade on Wilmington and all of the other southern ports to prevent goods from being imported and exported. Before we take a look at the fort, we will spend a moment exploring the resources and information the Welcome Center has to offer. Typically, we would have the opportunity to watch an interactive video on the movement of the Union troops into the fort, but unfortunately the demonstration is down for maintenance. This will be a great topic to explore more once we've finished our field trip though. While exploring the Welcome Center, a sign describing the Civil War reminds us that North Carolina supplied 125,000 troops, more than any other state. What do you know about the Civil War already? Construction of Fort Fisher began in April of 1861, right after the start of the Civil War. When Colonel William Lamb arrived in the summer of 1862, he was not pleased with the state of the fort and worked to improve the structure, adding strong batteries and palisades. In order to withstand the shock involved with advanced weapons, Fort Fisher was designed and built almost entirely of sand. Casemates inside the fort were constructed of logs and occasionally railroad iron. The fort was built by slaves, freed African Americans, and Confederate defenders. The first attempt to shut down the Confederacy came in 1861 when President Lincoln declared a blockade on all southern ports. This led North Carolina to secede from the United States. Blockade runners, or small ships designed to be able to maneuver around the large ships blockading the port, exported cotton and imported goods from the outside world. A lot of effort went into trying to prevent Union forces from entering ports and the surrounding land area to Fort Fisher. Here we see torpedoes that were placed in the water and landmines that could have been detonated to prevent attack on foot. And these are various guns and ammunition used by soldiers at the fort. This is a portrait of Colonel William Lamb, who took command of Fort Fisher on July 4th of 1862. His goal was to make the area safe from land or sea attack. And here we have replicas of the uniforms worn by soldiers in the Navy and Marine Corps officers. The Civil War was not just for men. Daisy Lamb, wife of Colonel William Lamb, was known to receive gifts of appreciation from blockade runner captains. She lived with her husband and children in a small cottage north of the fort. Rose O'Neill Greenhow was a Confederate spy who tried to enter Wilmington on a blockade runner in 1864. When the ship ran aground, she drowned, weighed down by the $2,000 worth of gold that she was attempting to smuggle into the fort. This is a model of the Battle of Fort Fisher. The Welcome Center provides us with more information about the Civil War and North Carolina's involvement. There's even a section dedicated to Fort Fisher's use after the Civil War. Did you know that from 1941 to 1945, the fort served as an army camp? It was used for military training during a war. Does anyone know what war this might have been taking place during this time? Now it's time to head out to the fort, the fun part. We're greeted by a large cannon, allowing us to really see the size of the weapons the soldiers were dealing with during the time. It's a beautiful day to explore as the Cape Fear River, seen off in the distance, brings us in a cool sea breeze. This massive anchor marks a spot where we can learn more about the blockades that took place in the Cape Fear River. The natural hazards made the river hard to control, allowing blockade runners the ability to move goods in and out of Wilmington and Fort Fisher. The rations issued to Fort Fisher tended to be bland and lacked vegetables. This caused outbreaks of sickness from late 1862 to early 1863. In order to keep his troops healthy, General Whiting ordered the creation of gardens for the fort. In an attempt to close off the port of Wilmington, the Union Army and naval forces joined to capture Fort Fisher in December of 1864. The Confederate soldiers were unable to withstand the over 60 ships and 600 mountain guns that the Union fighters had on their side. It was the largest naval bombardment of the war up to that time. 72 men were awarded the Medal of Honor for their service during the battles at Fort Fisher. In February of 1865, 3 brigades of Union forces totaling 3,700 men broke through the fences of the fort, leading to fierce hand-to-hand combat. And here is the main gate of entrance of the fort, where some of the heaviest fighting actually took place. The view from the top of the battery allows us to see the distant Kure River and the area surrounding that the soldiers worked to defend. The city of Wilmington was taken over by Union forces on February 22nd of 1865. Union soldiers remained at Fort Fisher for the years following. I hope you enjoyed our all-too-quick trip to Fort Fisher. More information about the fort can be found at nchhistoricsite.org. I'm interested to see what you guys thought about our adventure today, and hope that you have some feedback and more information that you'd like to learn about the topic.